Hello all, and welcome to the Panorama Consulting Group ERP Vendor Spotlight. Thanks for joining us. Today we are highlighting IQMS. My name is Chris DeVault. I'm Director of Industry Relations here at Panorama. I'm also Manager within Software Selection. We also have Steve Biscott today, Chief Marketing Officer of IQMS. This is a quick reminder for all the attendees to please visit our website and take advantage of the free hour of consulting with one of our experts. Today, we're going to look at some recent trends from both the Panorama and the IQMS side. We'll also have a brief overview of the application itself. A little bit here on Panorama. On the left-hand side, you can see Panorama's lines of service. We're a full management consulting group with deep experience in selection and change management. In the middle, you see the industries we focus on. This gives us vast exposure to best practices across multiple industries. And then on the right-hand side is about the people, very experienced and smart resources here at Panorama. This is a quick snapshot of some of our manufacturing clients. We have a global reach serving many different countries, a lot of North American groups with a global footprint. We also have clients ranging in all sizes, from startup with no revenue all the way up to $20+ billion manufacturers. Our projects include numerous ERP vendors, Tier 1, Tier 2 vendors, also niche applications for CRM, supply chain management, and even workforce management. The intent today is to provide some exposure to what we're seeing in the industry and give you some discovery information and exposure to the IQMS application. And we'll quickly now highlight some of the manufacturing trends that Panorama is experiencing from our clients. So manufacturing organizations are starting to leverage more secure portals and blockchain functionality for forecasting, collaboration, procurement, along with payments and transactions. Artificial intelligence certainly is coming along with the Internet of Things. We're seeing more practical usage on shop floors in combination with system workflow automation and business intelligence. And the customer experience is a large focus for not only the vendors we work with, but our clients as well. We always think customers can be internal and external to your organization, so it's important to realize who's using the data and how they're using it. Then a lot of our organizations are certainly more willing to streamline business processes, adapt and adopt to standardized best practices where appropriate. And what that does is it starts to reduce the risk and the duration and cost of ERP implementations. Of course, change management is always critical within those ERP successes as well. Now I'm going to turn it over to Steve Biscott at IQMS.
So hi, everybody. Welcome to the webinar, the Panorama IQMS webinar. Thank you guys for attending. This is Steve Biscott. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer at IQMS. And I'm going to go through about a 25-minute PowerPoint and then do some product demonstrations. First, I'm going to talk about who IQMS is and what the nature of the business and the ERP and the products that we provide are. And then I'll talk a little bit about trends that we're seeing in the marketplace and sort of external factors impacting ERP and what's driving ERP today. And then I'll talk a little bit in detail about our product and wrap up with a couple of demonstration scenarios on IQMS at work in a factory environment. And then after that, we'll take questions and do Q&A along with Chris at Panorama. So I'll dive into the who is IQMS portion of the presentation. And basically, up at the top, you see IQMS, and then you see the parenthetical Delmia Works. And I'll do this slide, and at the very end of this slide, I'll explain what the Delmia Works means. So IQMS, end-to-end manufacturing ERP and MES solution. I think everybody probably on the call is familiar with ERP. MES, for shorthand, in our vernacular, is where you dive into the middle of the factory and you do production monitoring and you do process monitoring and maybe some automation. We focus on discrete and batch process manufacturing. We don't do continuous flow manufacturing types. Those are other vendors that do a great job at that. We also focus on mid-market companies. Think of that as from $20 million to $750 million. Mainstream manufacturing, if you will. We do Fortune 1000 customers, but when we do that, we're often doing a plant or a group of plants within a conglomerate like an ITW or something where the parent company is running a backbone ERP like JDE or SAP, and they've got plants where they want to control the production processes there, and they will buy our MES product and install that at a plant to look after the production monitoring, the process monitoring, and some of the automation. We have 1,000 customers. We were founded in '89 by a General Electric's engineer. He was a manufacturing engineer at GE and began to write software to manage his own operations, and eventually left General Electric and formed and grew IQMS to the $70 million company that it is today. We have 325 employees. Our headquarters are where I am right now in Paso Robles, California. And then to get back to the Delmia Works explanation, in January of this year, we were acquired by Dassault Systems. And Dassault Systems is one of the largest manufacturing software companies in the world. The product that people on this call probably know the best is SolidWorks. It's a 3D design package. And so we're now part of the Dassault family and the SolidWorks family of manufacturing software products. Other products that people probably have heard of that might bring Dassault into focus for you is CATIA, which is a complex product 3D design package, and Aprizo, which is a manufacturing execution software package typically also used by very complex manufacturers. And to put that product line in perspective, when I'm talking about complex, and I'm talking about CATIA, and I'm talking about Aprizo, I'm talking about designing airplanes and ships and very complex systems. And when I'm talking about Delmia Works, which is the rebranded name of IQMS, I'll use both interactively in the presentation. I'm talking about less complex products, subsystems for cars, medical devices, food, consumer products, but certainly not airplanes and battleships. So I'll go to the next slide. We provide what we think of as an end-to-end manufacturing solution. And I'll repeat myself on this later, but I'll say it right now. That's kind of our calling card. That's our key differentiator. If you're a $250 or a $400 million manufacturer and you want a complete end-to-end solution for everything involved in the ERP spectrum and the accounting spectrum, the order management spectrum, the inventory spectrum, and you want a full MES package in the middle that looks after the production aspects of the maintenance, repair, and operation aspects, quality aspects of the business, and you also want a complete warehouse management system. That's why people come to us, is they don't want to bolt together a bunch of best-of-breed packages. They want what is effectively an end-to-end solution that can run the entire manufacturing operation, and that is indeed the product that we offer. Okay, so roles I think are important, and ROI is important in ERP, and one way to quickly express ROI is just to take a quick walk through the list of people who typically use our product in the factory, and that starts with the owner or the CEO, and their goal is to profitably support growth. They want to know that the money they're spending is being invested wisely, that the sales they're making are profitable, and that the finances of the business are under control and it's growing and it's profitable. The finance people I talk to, overwhelmingly what they want to know is, what's the true costs of what am I doing? I know what my costs should be. What are my costs actually? Am I making money for my CEO and my owner? IT, they're looking for something that has a low IT footprint, that's easy to maintain, and isn't a burden on that organization. Sales, they want to sell things. They don't really use ERP to do that, but when they have sold something, they want to make sure that it's a quality product and it's delivered on time, because that's what makes their paydays possible. It's like, I promised this guy something, my production team delivered it, it was a quality product, and it was on time. And ERP is absolutely essential to making that happen in a manufacturing environment. The engineering teams, they design these products. They want to see them made effectively, and particularly the MES and the quality portions of the system are essential to delivering to the engineers the finished products that they envisioned when they designed. Production people, man, it's really about standard cost and production time. So it's like, am I building it for what I'm supposed to be building it for in terms of the cost of the product, and am I delivering that in the time frames that everybody's promised I would? Quality is obvious. It's about the measurement and control and documentation of quality. The maintenance people have to keep the equipment running. They have to keep it producing quality products, so they need to know how many cycles are on tools, how many cycles are on machines, when maintenance is going to be scheduled. But when you get into a factory environment, you realize how essential the maintenance team is to the overall operating quality of the manufacturing operation. And then the warehouse people obviously want to know what they've got in inventory. They want to ship the right product to the right people at the right time. So ERP, it touches a lot of people within an organization, and each of them have a related but different expectation of what the system has to do. And I think as people on this phone call look and evaluate ERP or MES, I think taking that role-based look at it and what are you expecting, what do you expect to get out of this, is an excellent way to build a framework to evaluate the vendors that you're going to look at. This is real data. This is based upon the last 100 systems that we've sold, and why. I always ask the customers when they buy one, I say, why now? Why of all the days in the world, that you could have bought an ERP system, why now? Why did you decide to spend, hundreds of thousands of dollars or $100,000 or $500,000 on an ERP system right now? And the biggest answer is growing and improving the business. 40% of the customers, when you pin them down on this point, you say why, it's a growth issue. They can't sustain growth, they can't sustain profitability with whatever systems they're running today. But an amazing number of them, 26% of them, are faced with a legacy or end-of-life situation. Their vendor is end-of-life to their system. They've got a custom or homegrown system, and the programmer's retiring. Their hardware is worn out, and they don't want to replace an AS400. But 1/4 of our business is driven by systems that are in place, but they've become irreparably end-of-life. And then change in management, sometimes driven by son takes over for father, sometimes driven by new CFO, but in today's world, increasingly driven by merger and acquisition activity in the manufacturing space. In my many years in the business, I have never seen M&A at such an all-time high. And I attribute it to a couple things. One, people are wanting to grow through acquisitions. And two, some of the more mom and pop-ish businesses are selling their business to a larger business. It's an exit strategy for them to sell the business to an acquisition growth-oriented buyer. And prices are very high right now. The cost of borrowing money is very low, so you see a lot of activity in change in management is what I call it. And when there is a change in management and an acquisition strategy, they certainly want control and visibility of the businesses they're buying. So they're making sure that they're all on a modern ERP system and hopefully all on the same ERP system. So if they have 8 or 9 businesses, they have the continuity of visibility that they look for. Fair number of failed implementations. It's still amazing to me today how many people buy the wrong system that doesn't fit their business, which is why somebody invests in a panorama to help them not make that mistake. These people who do make that mistake are often out there on their own, and they just buy the wrong system. And then something I've seen increasingly lately, say over the past 18 months, 2 years, is regulatory reasons. Typical in the medical device or the food industries, they want to become validated. They want to be able to control quality and document quality better than they currently can, and they actually make the decision to buy ERP or MES based upon the need to fill some sort of regulatory or quality compliance edict that's been put out to them by either a government entity or a customer base. So those are the the reasons I see people today buying, ERP and buying it right now. These are the drivers, if you will. The other drivers, and I think this probably goes into it wraps around all of those, but it's probably particularly important on the growth and improved business side, is the digital transformation and manufacturing renaissance that we all see in the marketplace. I talked about SolidWorks. I was at a customer yesterday that was doing simulation. It had to be injection molder, but the ability to integrate design and simulation into the downstream processes of actually manufacturing, you're going to need a modern system to do that. And the power of being able to run the business from end to end, all the way from the conceptualization of the product through the planning and scheduling and desktop work of a product to the actual shop floor manufacturing of the product through the shipment of the product is an extremely attractive driver in the industry. Automation, labor shortages. I was at a business yesterday that uses 120 home workers to do assembly because they can't get enough people to come into the factory to do the work. So with them, it's a foot race to how quickly can they automate things. The concepts of manufacturing 4.0, which are out there and in a box over to the right, the smart machines, the IoT, the smart devices, the ability to analyze big swaths of data, interoperability between machines, between computers, and between people is a big thing, and digital twins, which is probably a fairly fancy way to say simulation and 3D design and doing things with software, with analytics before you actually do them, before you, as they said yesterday, before you cut metal. I talked about quality requirements and regulatory requirements. I certainly see bigger companies, OEMs pushing regulations and quality requirements down into the tier 1, 2, and 3 elements of the supply chain. You see medical requirements coming out of government regulatory agencies, shortening lead times. I see people building factories next to OEs just so they don't have to drive the truck so far. And I see order times shrinking from, 4 months to 3 months to 2 months to sometimes, a week, and in many cases in the automotive industry to, hours before things are placed on order and they're expected to be delivered in the right sequence and in the correct packaging and ready for automated assembly. And then semiconductor custom and dynamic manufacturing really sort of speaks to shortened lead times, but it also speaks to the ability to quickly configure a consumer product and get it built and get it shipped out through typically what it would be an e-commerce site. So a lot of digital transportation, a lot of manufacturing renaissance, a lot of onshoring and depending upon North American and Mexico manufacturing prowess to deliver a quality product in a short lead time at a fair price and a shying away a little bit of long lead times associated with building overseas. Okay. I've said this because I'm a marketing guy and I can't give the beginning of the presentation without already saying this information, but what differentiates us? 100% manufacturing focus. We don't focus on distribution. We don't focus on retail, banking, finance, anything else. We know our business, and that is discrete and batch processing, manufacturing management for the mid-market. The end-to-end solution, front office to the shop floor to the warehouse, avoiding a mid-market IT staff having to knit together 3 or 4 packages to get a complete solution. Now with SolidWorks, our 3D design capabilities extend our differentiation in the marketplace by something that's totally unique, which is the ability to get the design process, the simulation process, and the manufacturing process from a single vendor. I'm going to do a couple slides on native production monitoring and native process monitoring in just a second, but we're the only people out there that don't use a third party to execute those 2 parts of the manufacturing process. It is 100% IQMS native code that runs production monitoring and process monitoring. There's no bolt-ons, bolt-togethers, or need for integration. It is absolutely turnkey. And in the vein of turnkey, our product, our sales, our implementation, and our service, they all come from us, and they all come from a single source, which is IQMS. Our competitive landscape, this is where we fit in, and some people say you shouldn't show your competitors, and I don't mind showing our competitors because I think it helps people form a context and a decision-making matrix that helps them to better decisions, and we're often the better decision, so I don't mind showing it. You've got SAP up in the enterprise world, clearly the leader. Oracle, you don't see so much of them anymore, but they're up there. And then you've got QAD and IFS and Infor. They sort of nip at the soft underbelly of an SAP account. Maybe SAP is too much for me. Maybe I should look at QAD. Maybe I should look at IFS. Maybe you look at one of the Infor legacy products. And then you've got what I think of as Tier 2 ERP, which is squarely where we are. And our everyday competition in that space is Epicor, Plex, Microsoft Dynamics, and then ourselves. And we're proud to play in that space. And if you're in that category that I described earlier, say $20 to $750 million, we hope you take a strong look at our product. And then we've got the Tier 3 people who I sort of summarize by saying that it's more job shoppish. People that are building, industrial equipment, maybe quantity 3 of something, or it's engineer to order. That's a different manufacturing process. We'll get better at that as time goes on, but certainly there's this other tier of people who specialize in that type of manufacturing. I said I would say something about production monitoring, and I'm not going to read this slide to you, but to me, production monitoring is the foundation of manufacturing execution software, where you're fundamentally counting cycle times. You're making sure the machine is running, that the cycles are running within specification, how many good parts you're making, how much scrap. I guess I am reading the slide. And knowing all that allows you to know if the job's going to finish on time. Is the machine up and running? Is the job going to finish on time? If it isn't going to finish on time, I'm going to need to reschedule. And it's very simple, but it's very powerful. And then once you have all that information, you can backflush quite a bit of information into the ERP system, such as how much raw material you used, how many labor hours you used, how much machine time you used, utilization rates, OEE, all those various things. Production monitoring, when I go into a shop that's running repetitive and they're not doing production monitoring, I just scratch my head and say, why not? Because it is straightforward to do, and it really wires your factory and ties it down tight in terms of the information flow and the ability to manage cost. Process monitoring is a different animal in a certain sense, in that what you're doing at that point in time is you've instrumented the equipment, the manufacturing equipment that you're running, and you're measuring variables such as temperature and pressures and weights, and you're recording the actual situation at the time of manufacturing within the machine, and so you're able to validate that it's being made correctly. And if something starts coming off as scrap, you're able to drill down into the process variables that were recorded at the time of production to understand what happened and get to the root cause. I'm going to show 2 videos coming up, and one of them is spot on production monitoring and process monitoring, and I'll show that to you in a second. And then the second video I'm going to show is called Capable to Promise, and it sets up a scenario where a customer has called in and requested that you make something quickly. And in the act of being able to promise and rejigger your factory to make something quickly exposes most of the threads of thought that go through an ERP, a manufacturing ERP system. So I'm going to start those. I'm going to do the Capable to Promise video first. It runs about 3 minutes, and again, it takes you through the scenario of customer calling up. I need 10,000 of these, and can you get them to me by a certain date? And that really exercises almost all of the pieces of an ERP system. So here we go.
Welcome to a demonstration of the Capable to Promise functionality from DelmiaWorks. We will outline the way in which a customer service employee can utilize this valuable tool to not only set accurate expectations, but use the information it provides to potentially rework existing scheduling in order to ship to their customers on time. When a manufacturer receives a purchase order from one of their customers, they are also presented with the requested date on which the customer needs to receive their items. The user starts to create a quote for the order, being sure to include the requested item quantities and date. In order to first see if the manufacturer already has the necessary inventory to fulfill this order, they will open the inventory availability screen and check the on-hand amount. If the on-hand quantity of inventory in the system is insufficient to fulfill the customer's order, Capable to Promise can be selected in order to determine the feasibility of producing the items and shipping them to the customer prior to their requested date. Capable to Promise takes a wide look at the system and determines what the best course of action may be in order to best serve their customers. It not only looks at the quantity requested and the date at which the customer needs the order, but it also looks at the on-hand availability of the inventory items, as well as the current sales order and manufacturing demand. The system looks to see if the inventory items are consumed in other bills of material that are already scheduled within the system, as well as outstanding work orders that have yet to run. Finally, the system also considers the labor capacity at the time the job would have to run in order to be completed on time. After these calculations have been made, the system then generates one of 3 color codes for the user to quickly understand the chances of meeting the particular customer's demand. Let's say the first item will have no problem being manufactured on time, in which case the system returns a green light. It then provides the user a routing diagram for this particular inventory item, showing the steps in which it will take when being produced. If the item were to generate a red light, this means the job will not be completed and shipped to the customer on time as the current constraint stands. The system then shows all of the constraints that are preventing the manufacturing and shipping of this item from taking place in the requested time and allows the customer service employee to take necessary action in order to make it work. In this case, rescheduling a job on one machine frees up space for the given item to be produced. When Capable to Promise is run again, we can see this item is now signaling as a green light. Finally, if an item were to generate a yellow light, as seen here, this simply means shipping the item will be right up against a predetermined time buffer that is set in the system by the manufacturer, indicating very little margin for error. In other words, if the light is yellow and Capable to Promise, there is very little time between when the items will be completed and the requested date set by the customer in their initial purchase order. It is possible, but risky. With all the constraints removed and production steps streamlined, the user can then create the sales order within the system and production can begin soon. We have just seen the power that DelmiaWorks Capable to Promise tools can provide users in the form of clear scheduling and manufacturing information, which helps to accurately set expectations for customers, as well as exceed them whenever possible.
So I think that demo showed just a lot of the tentacles that reach out in ERP to accomplish something within the manufacturing environment. It also uses the word DelmiaWorks, and I spoke about it a little bit, and Chris and I will talk about it a little bit more at the end. But IQMS was purchased by Dassault, and we're going to rebrand the product over the next several months into DelmiaWorks, so it fits into the SolidWorks product family branding framework. So next, I'm going to show you a video on production and process monitoring, and same style of demonstration. And in this case, something's gone wrong on the floor, and we're in the MES portion of the system, and we're using the power of MES to rejigger the production to get it out the door and to also get to the root cause of what went wrong. So I'll start that video now.
To a demonstration of the real-time production and process monitoring functionality from DelmiaWorks. We will outline the way in which a project manager can use the system to take corrective action when necessary, using predictive analytics to ensure orders are getting to their customers on time. Using real-time production monitoring, a project manager can see an overview of work orders that are running across the plant floor. Color coding provides quick reference information as to the status of work order production. Green means the given job will be completed on time. Red means it won't. And yellow signifies downtime for the particular work center. If a given work order is trending out of spec and production monitoring predicts it will not be completed on time, the system notifies the user. Let's use number 72876 as the example here, which you can see in red. The project manager can then look at process monitoring to see that the cycle times are trending out of control, reaching and eventually exceeding the upper control limit based on the system's performance prediction. In order to diagnose the reason for the increased cycle times, the user can examine the various inputs of process monitoring data: cycle time, maximum fill pressure, and barrel temperature. In this case, we see a direct correlation between the barrel temperature and the predicted out-of-spec cycle time, which tells the engineer this must be the cause for the problematic readings from the system. They can then work to directly address the problem, helping to resolve the issue in subsequent jobs for the particular work center. For the order to be completed on time, the project manager decides to create a new work order to run the balance that remains from the first machine. The new work order number, for this example, will be number 72877. Because the project manager knows the issue with the first work center did not involve the mold itself, they install it to the second work center in order to continue production. As the new job is being set up on the second work center, engineers can further diagnose the root cause of the barrel temperature issues on the first machine to ensure subsequent jobs will run more smoothly. The system uses stored manufacturing data for the particular bill of manufacture to determine the run's best information for project managers. That is, the machine which will run the given job as efficiently and successfully as possible. Each work center is given a performance percentage rating from the system based on past cycles. The project manager then uses these scores to determine which work center should run the given job. In this case, the work order has been running on work center 33, but since engineers are currently working to diagnose barrel temperature problems, the project manager can then schedule the job on the next highest scored work center, in this case, number 5. Doing so assures that the work order will run on a machine that is well suited to handle the particulars of this job. Once the work order has begun running on the new work center, the project manager can continue monitoring the predictive analytics within process monitoring to ensure cycle times are back on track. Production monitoring now shows the order will be completed on time. We have just seen the power that DelmiaWorks' real-time production and process monitoring system can provide project managers in the form of robust predictive analytics. This information helps to prevent problems before they trend out of control, saving manufacturing organizations time and money.
So I think those two videos pretty much illustrate what I was talking about here when we talk about an end-to-end solution. I didn't really say much about shipping, but up here in the order processing area and the capable to promise and teeing up the job, if you will, to get it to go on time and make sure that all the downstream materials and resources are available to do it. And then in this area in particular, here in the process monitoring and rescheduling when something did go wrong. These are the reasons people invest in ERP, and particularly in manufacturing ERP, is to get those kind of capabilities at their fingertips. And with that, I'm going to conclude my presentation.
Great. Thank you, Steve and IQMS for your participation today. It's a nice overview and a good introduction to the application itself. This is a quick reminder for all the attendees to please visit our website and take advantage of the free hour of consulting with one of our experts. And then I'll also put up Laura Florence's contact information. You have our website information here as well. Laura is the Director of Business Development and the go-to person to reach out for information from Panorama. She's been on the service side as well. So she comes from delivery as a consultant for many years and now runs the BD department. So a great resource that we have in Laura. Steve, a couple of quick questions here. Could you do a little bit of a deeper dive into the Dassault, merger and acquisition there? What does it mean to your clients? What does it mean to their clients? And do you have maybe a more end-to-end offering for this space?
Yeah, so the Dassault transaction occurred in January, and the rationale behind doing it, the reasons for doing it, were basically three reasons. One, there was just the brilliance of merging the design process in with the actual manufacturing process. And I don't think I need to say much more about that, because clearly a lot of manufacturers, well, all manufacturers running automated design processes, and many of them run in SolidWorks. So merging SolidWorks with IQMS is really smart. And two, Dassault Systems, they're very large. They're a $4 billion supplier of manufacturing software around the world, and they didn't have an ERP system in that portfolio, and they wanted an ERP system in that portfolio. And when they looked at companies that they wanted to put in that portfolio, they chose IQMS, and it gives them a broader spectrum of software products, from design to simulation to collaboration to ERP and MES. And then from an IQMS perspective, we were at the end of a cycle of private equity ownership, and we needed a landing spot for the company. And Dassault is just such a quality operation, and their software products, many of you have experience with it, I'm sure. It's just top notch. So we were able to co-join with a tier one software company, and that's good for us as employees, and it's really good for our customers, because they're now with a world-class software company of global scale. And it also gives IQMS the ability, through Dassault's global sales and distribution network, to sell more of our products in the rest of the world. So it was a win-win-win for the customers, for the manufacturing community at large, and for the IQMS employees.
Good, thanks, Steve. That'll be interesting to see what the short-term and long-term future brings with that. And then the final question here: you talked about small and mid-market, your position, in the market space. Can you talk a little bit about the scalability of the system and the growth that some of your customers are seeing?
Yeah, our customers are. I'll talk about growth and scalability first. From a technical standpoint, there are no limits to the scalability of the system. I mean, its underlying technology is an Oracle database, and so the number of plants, the number of users, the number of inventory items, transactions, all of those things you might consider as scalability factors. We don't even test it because it's just such a scalable product infrastructure architecture. So there are no issues there. There's a point in time at a manufacturing size where best of breed might be the best solution. A dedicated quality management system, maybe a highly complex MES system, maybe a tier one document control system, human resource management system, CRM system. We're bolting all that together, might be what you need to scale around the globe. And that's not us, right? So it's not, the scalability is not based upon technology. It's based upon a business's ability to integrate complex systems together. If you don't want to spend a lot of time doing that, don't have the IT wherewithal to do that, then that's where IQMS comes in. And when you become big enough, call it $1 billion, or to do that and to want to do that and be able to profitably do that, that's when you wouldn't want to consider IQMS. So, or Delmia Works. And so that's the scalability thought process that a prospect needs to go through is how much do you want to be end-to-end turnkey versus how much do you want to invest in integration. And from our customers and their growth standpoint, we've been really fortunately, I suspect it's a bit of self-selection, is that good manufacturers have chosen to implement good ERP systems, and good manufacturers have been growing. One, just as a tide of growth in manufacturing, and two, in winning business away from other manufacturers. And I believe the two key things I'll go with three key things that makes manufacturers winners today are one, the ability to deliver on short lead times and deliver a quality product, and to add value-added services such as assembly or making multiple parts or coatings or platings or special finishes, but to take steps out of the manufacturing process for their upstream customers so they have to deal with fewer vendors. So that would be on-time, quality, and value-added processes. And you do those three things, and there's a lot of business out there for growth.
Yeah, good explanation, Steve. Thank you. Appreciate that. And thanks again for your participation, you and IQMS, and thanks obviously to our attendees as well. Really appreciate you attending Panorama's ERP Vendor Spotlight IQMS, and everybody have a great day. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris.